If she does want to make a statement on the news of the day, we've seen her approach the press waiting under the wing of Air Force Two to give a statement, but then she turns away before answering any questions. And so I think that the public is expecting, or certainly the media is expecting, for her to engage more with reporters now that she has replaced Biden at the top of the ticket. Now, I know just from covering her the last really 6 years that her engagements with the press are varied. Certainly as she's been vice president, we've seen some kind of damaging moments when her speaking to the press, particularly that first interview she did in 2021 with Lester Holt about her work on immigration. And so I think that that is something that's always been on the mind of her office and the vice president herself. Of course, we've reported that she has been doing some media training over her vice presidency. So I think that that's a major question, and time really, Jose, is running short for her to kind of present herself in front of the media.
Yeah, although she's been doing a very good job of presenting herself in front of thousands of people in events throughout and much of these very critical states. She has, yesterday in Michigan, Jasmine, she was interrupted by protesters at her rally there, thousands of people there. Some protesters chanted things like, you can't hide, we don't vote for genocide and free Palestine. Here's how she responded. Take a listen.
You know what? If you want Donald Trump to win, then say that, otherwise I'm speaking.
What do you make of that moment?
Yeah, Jose, it's actually really funny because after I saw that clip, I texted some of my other former Kamala embeds, and I said, raise your hand if you've received that look before when asking her a question. That is who the vice president is. She is a prosecutor, and she wants to come across strong, and she wants to have her voice heard. Now, before that clip happened, she actually did listen to the protesters. She has been empathetic with pro-Gaza protesters since October 7th. And I think that that's something that you can expect to continue. But it's certainly going to raise a question of potentially why she wasn't more prepared, or why she didn't take a more agreeable route maybe with these protesters, particularly knowing how difficult it was for Biden to recoup credibility with them after his actions post October 7th. Really, that was kind of a thorn in his side when he had those major rallies. Protesters continued to prop up and disrupt. So I think that they're going to have to really calculate how they want her to respond in these moments. Obviously, they don't want to offend these pro-Gaza protesters, but the vice president also wants to be able to deliver her message to those 12,000, 15,000 rallies where people really want to hear her speak.
Yeah, I mean, and Dasha, lastly, former President Trump has recently criticized Harris's running mate, Minnesota Governor Walz, over his handling of the George Floyd protest back in 2020. NBC got a new audio from June 2020. What does that audio tell us?
Yeah, Jose, this is part of that real-time recalibration that I've been talking about as they're trying out these different attacks. The former president has been criticizing Governor Walz over his response. He and his allies have been posting online. He posted to Truth Social saying that Governor Walz, quote, let Minnesota burn in the aftermath. But we got some new audio of him praising Governor Walz in the aftermath and during those riots. Take a listen.
I know Governor Walz is on the phone, and we spoke, and I fully agree with the way he handled it the last couple of days. I spoke to the governor. The governor is, I think, on the call, and he's an excellent guy. And all of a sudden, and I said, you got to use the National Guard in big numbers. They didn't at first.
So now the Trump campaign is defending those comments. His spokesperson telling us that days after the riots began, that was when the phone call happened, and that President Trump acknowledged Governor Walz for finally taking action to deploy the National Guard to end the violence in the city, and then reiterating some of the former president's talking points, criticizing how the governor handled that and saying he let Minnesota burn after the former president offered to deploy soldiers after cries for help from the mayor of Minneapolis. Jose.
Dasha Burns and Jasmine Wright, thank you both so very much. We are also following breaking news on Tropical Storm Debbie. It's making its second landfall overnight. The storm triggered tornado watches in several states. One person has died after a possible twister touched down near Raleigh, North Carolina, tearing through this middle school. Take a look at that. Debbie is expected to keep moving inland, generating flood alerts stretching nearly 1,000 miles. Joining us now, NBC's Marisa Parra from Wilson County, North Carolina, and NBC meteorologist Bill Cairns. Marisa, what are you seeing there today?
Hey, so we are seeing the winds picking up. The rain has been picking up on and off, and we expect that to be more or less what we see here on the ground. So we're in Wilson County, and this is about an hour east of Raleigh, North Carolina. And the reason that we are on this particular street is this is where we believe a possible tropical tornado struck. There is severe damage up and down this street, several homes, including the one behind me. This particular home behind me, the second floor collapsed right on top of the first floor there. And there were search and rescue teams all morning that we've been here looking for a man they believed was inside. And unfortunately, he was not found alive. And so hopefully you can see video of what we have seen on the ground throughout our morning beyond where we're standing. And it's such an important reminder because when we talk about the danger of tropical storm systems, yes, Debbie is moving at a crawl, sometimes 5 miles per hour, sometimes 7 miles per hour. And it was a weak hurricane when it was a hurricane. But this is still a deadly storm. We have seen that not just with the tornado. We saw, of course, this fatality here, and this has been a risk from the very start. Today is the most severe tornado risk since Debbie first made landfall earlier this week. But of course, the flood risk. This is a super soaker. We've been talking about the flooding all throughout Florida and, of course, now North Carolina. We've seen video of several feet of flooding in places like Bladenboro, North Carolina, 2 to 3 feet. We know our correspondent Priscilla Thompson has been doing reporting from there. There were several rescues. So far, no reports of injuries. But all of this is part of why it's so important to stay off the roads if you don't have to be on the roads. In places like North Carolina, there's tree branches coming down as I speak, by the way, so we might have to move out of here. All of this, again, is such an important reminder of why it is important to take these warnings seriously as this storm continues to move north, Jose. But we're really looking at North Carolina and Virginia, which, of course, our weather teams can speak to.
Marisa Parra, thank you so very much. And let's speak with our weather team, the head of that weather team. Bill, where is Debbie headed now? And I want to ask you after this, Bill, about this whole heat advisory for the entire state of Florida today. But let's check in on Debbie right now.
Okay, so the first thing with Debbie is the storm is finally starting to move. Now we're up to 10 miles per hour, and from here on out, the storm is going to accelerate and race up the East Coast, and that minimizes the threat as far as the heavy rainfall. The faster the storm is moving, the less rain it can produce in any one given area, but we still do have to worry about the tornadoes. So here's the update from the National Hurricane Center. It's just about done being a tropical storm. The next advisory, it'll likely be down to a tropical depression, and it's, again, 10 miles per hour. It's going to cross in the next 2 hours or so from South Carolina into North Carolina. All of eastern North Carolina, from Raleigh to the Outer Banks, is under that tornado watch till 1 o'clock. This will likely be extended later this afternoon. Does include Virginia Beach up here. Probably the next update may even include the Richmond area. And as far as tornadoes go, we definitely had a couple strong ones last night. Obviously, you saw the damage from one of those, and I think we had a couple. As far as right now, we don't have any tornado warnings. Here's the Raleigh area, but as we've been watching these thunderstorm cells moving in, they can produce weak tornadoes right through the afternoon. Of course, flooding has been a huge deal. Many areas picked up 3 to 6 inches of rain overnight. Everywhere in maroon here. You can drive from Charlotte to Raleigh all the way to Wilmington, and you'll be in a flash flood warning the entire way. That's why they're telling everyone to stay off the roads here. This will move northwards. The heavy rain is going to start pushing into areas of Virginia shortly, and especially into the mountainous areas. And I think we're going to have some significant problems with flash flooding, maybe even flash flood emergencies later. Worried about areas like Roanoke, Lynchburg, Harrisburg, and that'll be more from like now to probably about 2 or 3 in the morning. Then the storm will accelerate northwards all the way through northern New England. By the time we get to Friday night, the weekend is clear for everyone on the East Coast, but we have to get there first. It does look like a possible 1 to 2 inches additional rain around Raleigh. There's that heavy rain possible, 5 to 6 inches in the mountains of Virginia, and isolated flooding, Jose, after that, Pennsylvania and upstate New York.
And so, Bill, taking a look, I'm not, no specifics, but, we're in 8th of August. I guess the end of August, beginning of September is the peak season, for the hurricane season. How do things look just in general in the whole area?
There's nothing that's like heading right here. There's no storm right behind us that we're going to be like, oh, look out. So I think we get a little bit of a break, and then about 2 weeks from now, maybe 10 days or so, there's the next wave that we'll have to start watching. And that's typical, Jose. When we get to the peak, usually, every week or every other week, you're going to have something to watch. But there's nothing imminent. And I know you mentioned the thing about Florida and how hot it is. You have a strong west wind. The Gulf is like record high thanks to climate change, record high temperatures. So you have huge dew points coming in. And that's why yesterday, I think for Tampa had 118 heat index. I mean, it's been ridiculously hot.
The whole state of Florida today is under heat advisory. Yeah. That's really striking. Bill Caron, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. I thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Up next, breaking details surrounding a possible terror plot targeting Taylor Swift, her concerts in Austria. There were 3 concerts, they've been canceled, and how the U.S. actually helped foil this attack. Later, their mission was only supposed to last 10 days. Why these 2 astronauts could be stuck at the International Space Station until next year. And in Paris, as the Olympics starts to wind down, we'll tell you which Olympians have been chosen to be the U.S.'s flag bearers for the closing ceremony. We're back in 90 seconds. You're watching Jose Díaz-Balart Reports on MSNBC.
Hard water makes it hard to keep your home looking like the work of art you've always envisioned it would be. Culligan softeners reduce hard water buildup and your cleaning time, transforming every drop, every splash, every rinse into the fine art of a long-lasting clean. With a Culligan water softener, revel in the breathtaking beauty of your home, just the way you've always pictured it. Culligan, water you love.
All the parts you need at the prices you want. Guaranteed to fit every time. So you can keep your ride or die alive.
When I was working in the Senate, I didn't realize that it's the perfect training for the job that I have now. Covering government, covering politics, the complexity of it all. You learn how to explain that and how to live through that when you work in this building. Mastering the detail is crucial to being able to present anything that happens in Senate buildings like this or any of the other news centers that we have to focus on every day.
Fifteen past the hour, now to Europe, and new developments about a terror plot that led to the cancellation of 3 Taylor Swift concerts in Vienna, Austria. Authorities arrested 2 men who were planning attacks on major events in Vienna, including Swift's concerts. The promoter of those concerts canceled the concerts out of concern for safety. So far, the pop superstar has not commented on the cancellations, but as you can imagine, the news comes as a huge disappointment to fans from all over the world who look forward to seeing these concerts.
In the biggest understatement of my life, all 3 nights at the Vienna Eras Tour are now canceled.
The women in my family have been planning this trip for over a year.
NBC's Tom Winter joins us now with more on this. Tom, good morning. There's word the U.S. played a role in foiling this plot, which was pretty detailed, right?
It is. We received a lot of information overnight, and our team in Europe and out of our London bureau and our colleague Andy Eckert's been on top of it and speaking with the Austrian authorities and getting details from them. What the Austrians say is that this 19-year-old that they arrested, one of the 3 that they took in